Hello, my name is Mark and this is SlotTrackRacer. Today's edition is all about Scalextric and Formula 1. So if you watched the last edition of SlotTrackRacer, you'll recall that I got some discontinued Formula 1 cars and I'd soldered some digital chips inside to turn them into digital cars. And that got me thinking really all about my Formula 1 collection, because I've got quite a few Formula 1 Scalextric cars. And thinking back, the actual history of Formula 1 racing and the Scalextric history is quite closely interwoven. If you think about it, Formula 1 started in 1950 at Silverstone, and the Scalextric, the first set, came out in 1957. It was just 7 years later, and ever since then the history of the races and the history of the car set has been absolutely interwoven. So I thought I'd do today's video all about Scalextric and its attempt to keep up with Formula 1. So what have we got coming up then? Well, what I thought I'd do today would be to have a look at the 7 decades of Formula 1 racing, and we'll have a look at how the cars have changed and how the styles have changed, and woven into that we'll have a look at how Scalextric have matched Formula 1 through those decades and the cars that they've produced to replicate the sport. We'll get some nice pictures up on the screen, we'll have a little trip down nostalgia lane, and I think you'll be quite surprised really at where we started and where we've gotten to. We'll also have a look at the difficulties for Scalextric in keeping up to date and current with Formula 1, and those aren't just problems that affect Scalextric, they affect lots of slot car manufacturers, so we'll have a look at that. And also, I've bought all of my Formula 1 cars down from in the house, and I've actually got them all lined up on the track. So what I'm going to do is get the camera on those cars and I'll show you all the ones that I've got. We'll look at the similarities and the differences. And then at least one of the cars I'm going to give a 2-minute challenge to see just how fast they are and if they're as fast as my Pagani Huayra, which holds the lap record for my track. And if the 2 discontinued Formula 1 cars that I've wired up for digital, if they work as pacer cars, which I actually think that they do, and I actually think that they go really, really fast. So what I'll do is I'll set you up a pacer car pursuit and I'll film that, and as I say, judging on the speed of those 2 pacer cars that I've recently wired up, I think it's going to be a really exciting chase, and I don't actually think I'll be able to win. But all that's coming up, so stay tuned and let's start getting on with it.
"24 of the world's top drivers meet at Silverstone for the Grand Prix of Europe. British ace Reg Parnell of Derby is number 4 in the strong Italian Alfa Romeo team. With only 6 British cars included, attention is focused on Bob Gerrard and his well-known ERA. Our white hope in motor racing, the BRM, is only there on show. The King and Queen are among those who look it over. It's the first Grand Prix to be watched by a reigning sovereign, and the royal party are there to wish the drivers luck, including Prince Bira of Siam.
So that was Formula 1 back when it started in the 1950s, and even then it was fast and fun and furious, and probably devoid of any safety features that we take for granted these days. But as those Formula 1 cars have changed through the decades, so have these little Scalextric cars changed to match them. So let's go through the decades and have a look at some of the innovations in Formula 1 design, and we'll see how Scalextric kept pace through the years. Formula 1 began with these big chunky front engined cars that were shaped like cigars, thinking of cars like the Alfa Romeo 158. Drivers like Fangio and Farina raced these cars without any thought to safety. They had open cockpits, skinny tyres. The Scalextric, when that set launched in 1957, It went live with the Maserati 250, and if you look at the depiction of what the real Maserati 250 was like against the Scalextric one, you can see where we started. So the 60s were the years when just about everything changed, and I think it was a time where technology and invention surpassed just sheer brute force and size of the engine. We've seen lots of innovations in Formula One. I think that the biggest one was lifting the engine out of the front of the car and putting it behind the driver. One of the most successful cars was the Lotus 25, designed by Graham Chapman and driven by Jim Clark. Scalextric did their own version of the Lotus 25, and if you look at the two side by side, there's quite a comparison, isn't there? The 60s was also the year when my brother entered the hobby. As I think I've told you before, Scalextric came into my family quite a few years before I was born, because my brother had a set, and I always remember his two cars. There was a BRM and a little Porsche, and they both had steering wheels that steered by themselves as they went round the groove in the track, and I thought that was amazing. He also had a blue van wall, which that sort of dated from the 50s, and even when I became aware of his cars, which was like in the 70s, I could appreciate how old-fashioned that van wall was against the BRM and the Porsche. In the 70s and 80s, it was aerodynamics that really came to the fore, wasn't it? Think about the big wings and the fins on the front of the car. Other innovations like ground effect, turbo power, radical changes dominated. And think of the cars in that period. So there was the Lotus 72 and the Lotus 79 and the unstoppable McLaren MP4. Scalextric had a go at modelling all of these cars, and of course the thing that was coming in then into Formula One was the sponsorship, wasn't it? So do you remember those liveries, the cigarette packet liveries? So there was a John Player Special, the Marlboro. And Scalextric did some excellent models. I can't think of any young boy that didn't have the Lotus 72, and I think that was, if I remember right, one of the first crystal cases that came out with the 72 in the John Player Special livery. I was lucky enough I had it in Scalextric and in Corgi. Some of the other cars though, I had a UOP Shadow, which was a car from that decade, and also if you look at the sets that included the McLaren MP4, Scalextric got stuck in this situation of creating Formula One cars that basically looked like jelly moulds. So while the 72 is an excellent model, the UOP Shadow and the McLaren 4 was basically, as I say, just a jelly mould. So as we moved into the 1990s, it was all about electronics and materials, wasn't it? So think about active suspension and traction control and carbon fibre everything. And it really was the golden generation of drivers, wasn't it? If you think of Prost and Senna and Mansell, Schumacher, and the great cars that they drove, the Lotus 97, the Lotus 99, the Williams car. Scalextric came up with some really great models during this period. So the two that I've been working on just recently, the Williams and the Lotus Camel, such beautiful cars, and still in the cigarette livery. And so we find ourselves in the modern era, a time when we said goodbye to active suspension and traction control and all the other technological advances. I think a bit like the rally cars, the Formula One cars, we're getting so reliant on the technology and pushing things to the barrier, to the absolute limits, that things were getting a little bit dangerous. And of course we all remember the terrible accident with Ayrton Senna, although you know that did bring in safety features after the accident happened. The period saw some great cars, so the hybrid era, where we started thinking about energy recovery systems and drag reduction systems, with that little bit of a nod to the climate change in the environment. That's where we find Lewis Hamilton's career. So he's 7 world championships starting in 2007 and working through to the present day. We see some great cars that he drove. So we had his initial McLaren in the iconic Vodafone livery, and his Mercedes in the Petronas livery, and of course now he's with Ferrari. Scalextric managed to keep pace with Lewis and pushed out some models representing his drives. So personally, I've got the McLaren in the Vodafone livery, although my model actually is Heikki Kovalainen's, not Lewis's. Well, the nose cone is Lewis, but the body is Heikki, because that's had a bit of an accident on the track. But that was a nice car that they put out. They also did his, and this is Lewis's car, his Mercedes in a Petronas livery, so I have that one as well. That's a really nice car, I think. Very delicate as well. This one's come into contact with the sidewall and had a problem with its wings there on the front. So at the moment there's no Lewis Hamilton Ferrari car from Scalextric, but what I will do now is move on, and what I'll actually do is show you my complete collection of Formula 1 cars on the track, and we'll do a little grid walk and have a look at them all. So I'm going to show you now 11 of the 13 Formula 1 cars that I own. So here comes the first car. This is Red 5, as driven by Nigel Mansell. So Scalextric issued this in about 1987. It really represents the actual car, doesn't it? Iconic livery. The Lotus 99, the Ayrton Senna car, that's another lovely one. This is one that I've chipped with a digital chip. Just move it back into shot there. Here's number 3. So this is the Jensen Button Earth car, so a nod to the environment. I've actually seen this car in real life and it looked absolutely spectacular. And here's my first Lewis Hamilton car. Well, I say Lewis Hamilton, it's actually Heikki Kovalainen's car, the iconic Vodafone livery there from the 2007 season. And here is a Lewis Hamilton car. This is the Mercedes Petronas. This one dates from 2015, released by Scalextric in 2016. Now here we go, this is the McLaren MCL32. It's advertised as Fernando Alonso's car, but if you have a look at the next car, this isn't such a generic design by Scalextric, so they were not allowed to say Ferrari, so it was called the Red Stallion GP car. And we get now into a series of super resistant generic Grand Prix cars. This is the black green one from 2016, and this is a white one from the same year, 2016. So these cars weren't based on real cars, but the sort of the period and the general design of Formula 1 cars in that day. This is an interesting car. This is from 2006, and this was a sort of world racing series where each country was represented by a team. And finally, Ayrton Senna's Lotus 97T, sadly a car that I can't chip at the moment, destined to be a shelf queen forever, but it's beautiful. So that's enough talking about Formula 1. I think what it's time to do now is to get one of these cars out of my collection and give it a go down the track. So the car I've chosen for you this time is going to be the Honda RA17, and it's a car that they call the Earth car. And if you can't spot the obvious reason for that, it's the livery, which is supposedly depicting the planet Earth against the blackness of space. So this car was driven by Jensen Button, and it appeared in the 2007 series. It actually wasn't that competitive in the Formula 1 World Championship. It only accumulated 5 championship points, and it finished 8th in the Constructors' Championship. I think its best finish was in China, where it got a 5th position. It is a lovely car though, isn't it? And it's one of the first Formula 1 cars I bought when I came back to the hobby. So just to point out some of the things on it, it's if you notice, there's hardly any sponsorship logos. So this car was sort of a nod to climate change and the effect that Formula 1 has on the environment with fossil fuels, etc. So it was deliberately made to just represent our thoughts about the climate, and as such there was no sponsorship logo, so there was only 2, and I think I can actually see them. So the one was the manufacturer of the car, which was Honda, and there was also the Bridgestone logo, which was a company that worked with them to make the tyres, and the only other logo on the car was on the spoiler, which was the website for an environmental climate change website. So let's have a look at those details. I've got my pointing stick, so let's just turn the car around a little bit. So there's a Honda logo just on the front there. This was the car number 7, Jensen Button. And the Bridgestone logo, you can just see it depicted just there on the nose cone. What Scalextric have done on this car that I do really like is the detail on the helmet. So if you go on to the internet and look at pictures of Jensen Button in this car, this is the exact helmet that he wore. So there's a Union Jack there, so it's a really good detail. I'm not sure what printing technique they would have used to print that detail, but it's really excellent. And there's the address of the website on the back there. Some people might want to check that out and see if it still exists. Let's move it into focus. So it was myearthdream.com. So if anybody wants to fire up Google and type that in, we'll see if the website still exists. And look at those green body restraints there, the safety harness. It's really good detail, isn't it, for the year of the car. My version is digital. In these days the cars didn't come digital plug ready, but you had to actually choose whether you wanted an analog version of the car or a digital version of the car. And this one, I actually had an analog version first, and I traded this in when I went digital and bought the digital version of the car. And you can see the chips just by the sensor there is just fitted. So I mean, come on, that's enough talking, isn't it? We need to get this car doing a 2-minute test. So the details of a 2-minute test is it's a 2-minute endurance race. This is the first Formula 1 car that I'm going to put down the track that I'm going to show you. The track record, just to remind you, is held by my Pagani Huayra, and it got round in 5.495 seconds, so just under 5.5 seconds, 5.495. I'm not sure how this car's going to go. It's got ridged tyres on it. Again, that was in keeping with the period that it was released by Scalextric, which was just after the live season, so about 2008. So ridge tyres, yeah, I am going to have to give them a bit of a clean. They feel a little bit hard, but I'm going to give them a wipe with, I think I'm going to use WD-40, whether you guys agree with that or not. That's what I'm going to use. I've given my track a good wipe, give all the corners a good wipe, got rid of all the dust. So let's see what we can do with this car in a 2-minute test and see what sort of time it goes. So let's hand over to my alter ego, Mark Commentary, and we'll go straight into the 2-minute test. Well, thank you, Mark. My name is Mark Commentary. I'm going to describe to you the 2-minute challenge. And here we are, the lights are red and they're green and we're racing. So this is the Honda RA17 in the Earth car colours, formerly ridden by Jensen Button. Today it's been piloted by Mark Rosberg. There's a first lap there, that was a 7.639. So we're using a different format this week. We're using the qualifying format. So each time you hear old Murray Walker in the next commentary box saying absolutely fantastic, that is a new best time for this session. The bottom of the leaderboard is the Porsche Boxster of 6.388, so unless the Honda can hit that 6.388 time, it's not going to hit the top 10. The times haven't been brilliant yet. 6.9, that's nearly 7 seconds. That's quite slow. I think the tyres are struggling to hold on this track. And that's a 6.465, so we're still outside of the top 10. But there we are, we've got onto the leaderboard. So 6.297, that will give it a position in the top 10. And again, 6.282. Are we running into form here? Will we hit the Pagara's time? 6.048, so we're nearly under 6 seconds. That's the benchmark for this track. That's another top 10 lap. That's 6.328, but we're not near the wireless time of 5.495. So we've got 30 seconds to go on the challenge. We've completed 14 laps, and 6.048 is the fastest time so far. 6.668. So it looks like we're slowing down here. We want to finish the laps without de-slotting and spoiling the session. So 16 laps completed, we're into the final 8 seconds. 6.515. Can he come round and sneak another lap in? Yes he does. 18. Will he fit in 19 laps? No! There goes the lights. The session's over. So let's have a look at the leaderboard there. So the fastest time was 6.048, completed 18 laps. So the last thing we wanted to cover off today was the difficulty for Scalextric to actually make Formula 1 cars and for other slot car manufacturers. And the first thing we need to talk about is the speed and design of Formula 1 cars. So these things go damn fast, don't they? And they're so lightly constructed and fragile looking. If you look at a Formula 1 car that's come into collision with a crash barrier, you can see they just absolutely disintegrate. Now this translates its way into the slot car world. So a lovely car like this, you know, if I want to put this around the track really quickly, as soon as it deslots, what's going to happen to it? This wing's going to go, isn't it? This rear spoiler's going to go, wing mirrors are going to go, the little aerial on top of the air intake there, all that's going to come flying off this car. And you know, for the young child, or even for somebody that collects slot cars as a model, it's going to be really disappointing for them. So yeah, your first problem is the fragility of the cars. But the next one, and probably the most important one, is the sponsorship and the licensing. So if you think about Formula 1, it's a real cash cow, isn't it? It's the pinnacle of FIA racing. It's a thing that makes all the money. Whether you've ever tried to go to a Formula 1 event, but it's absolutely so expensive, and they haven't earned all that money by being, you know, footloose and fancy free with their copyright rules and their intellectual property. So for Scalextric to model a car like this with all these sponsorship details and to get the design very similar to what the real car looks like, it's got to go through months and months and months of careful negotiation and pay over hefty licensing fees. And the thing with Scalextric is next week all these sponsorship liveries, details could disappear. So cars turn out from one week to the next and they look, you know, can look totally different. I mean, admittedly the sponsorship sort of is enduring, but if you think about the current Formula 1 car that they've got out, they're doing a Williams and they're doing it in a light blue Golf livery. I know for the fact that that car only went round the track once. The real Williams livery is like a dark blue colour. And Scalextric, you can get it in a set, but you can't buy that car on its own to my knowledge. So how does Scalextric get around things like that? Well, I mentioned before when we did the parade, they put out this sort of car. So this car isn't actually a realistic Formula 1 car. It's a complete invention of Scalextric. Now the body shape is broadly right for cars that were around about 2015, I think, when they used to have this fin on the back. So the body shape is sort of right, but it's not actually accurate to a particular manufacturer. And if you look at the livery details, it's, although they can depict the sort of yellow shield there, they can't put the prancing horse in there, so they can't call this a Ferrari. I mean, you look at that, that's a Ferrari, isn't it? But they can't call it a Ferrari, and they can't use a prancing horse logo. So what Scalextric tend to do is go backwards. So they'll create a car like this one that I've spoken about a few times. So this, you know, it's aiming at the nostalgia market, isn't it? It's absolutely accurate. It's a retool of a car that came out back in the day, but they've gone to so much more detail. But I'd be frightened to put this on my track, wouldn't you? Because this, you know, it's so delicate. The suspension detail there is so delicate. If I put that on my track and I had an accident with it, it would just disintegrate. But what Scalextric tend to do, and the point I'm making, is rather than put out current Formula 1 cars, they will always go back and do nostalgic ones for back in the day, because this is a point in time. You know, the logos aren't going to change on this car, the design isn't going to change on this car, because this car doesn't exist anymore. You know, it was back in the when was it, the 80s. So there you are. That's the difficulty with producing Formula 1 cars for Scalextric. look at this week's Pacer Car Pursuit, and we do have an all-new grid here. So we've got the Honda Williams and the Lotus Camel 99T on the front row of the grid. You can see in the background there, it's the Honda RA17 in the Earth Car colours. That car's been driven by Mark Rosberg. So we're sitting on the grid waiting for the lights. And it's green and we're racing, and that's an incredible start for the Honda Williams. Immediately it's put a whole lot of gap in between it and the Lotus 99, so it's come round for this second lap, and that's a 2.2 second gap back to the Lotus 99T. Incredible performance. Oh, what happened there? What happened?
They're so bad, man.
Let's see a replay of that. Oh, it spun out. So the Earth car spun out and that lap didn't count. We'll have to see what the stewards do about that, because it's now a whole lap behind. And the Honda Williams is chasing down the Lotus 99T there. This is such a fast pacer car, and I think it's going to come through a lap. It has. It's taking it on the back straight there, and as it comes round, it's a whole lap ahead. We're on the last lap now, so the Williams is absolutely invincible. It comes through, it takes the checkered flag, and the Lotus comes through in second place, and the Honda RA17 in third. So what an exciting race, but that Williams was absolutely unbelievably fast. There's the full result on screen. Disappointment for the Honda RA17 Earth car. So there we are at the end of another edition of SlotTrackRacer. I do hope you've enjoyed the episode. Let's first of all talk about the Pacer Car Pursuit. So I've introduced you to two new Pacer cars, so the Honda Williams and the Lotus 99T. So if you've been following me, you know that I've recently chipped these with digital chips. And I think they were formidable pacer cars, weren't they? In fact, the Honda Williams, I think I've overcooked it a little bit. It's all muck and no magic, I'm afraid. It's all down to the strength of this magnet on the bottom, so I've possibly used one that's a little bit too strong, and the result of that is probably the motor will burn out one day. But I mean, as a pacer car, it's absolutely invincible, so I think I do need to have another look at this car so to calibrate it a bit, or else it's going to be a little bit dull to watch, isn't it? But good performance, I'm pleased with both the cars, but this one was a little bit too fast. So the car that was competing in this episode was the Honda Earth car, the RA17, and that's this one. So in the Pacer Car Pursuit, it just didn't compete at all, did it? And if you recall lap 3, because of these tyres, the back ends span out and it missed the lap counter, so it didn't even record a time for lap 3. And that's quite typical with Scalextric digital racing. If this little sensor on the bottom of the car doesn't exactly go over the sensor in your lap counter, your times aren't going to count, and that can be a little bit frustrating when you're playing with friends or racing against somebody. So you do need to get your lap counter section of track in a big long straight, so any flip outs like that do get a chance to be corrected and the car can realign with the sensor on the track. I thought mine was quite good actually, but as we've seen on the replay, it just span out and it didn't go over. So yeah, and the reason being, I think, is these tyres. So these are ridge tyres. I have in the past sanded them, so the ridges are almost worn down. They feel a little bit sort of hard. They're probably quite old now. These cars are 2008 car, so you do the maths, but that's quite old, isn't it? So that's probably why that car didn't compete. However, it didn't do the 2-minute challenge, didn't it? And let's see where it goes on the Shelf of Champions. So this was a new feature I introduced in my last episode, the Shelf of Champions. So the current champions are, in first place, the Pagani Huayra with 5.495 second lap time, record lap time. Second place is the Mercedes AMG, another GT3 car, and in third place is my first saloon car, and that's the Jake Hill BMW. That car's actually been signed by Jake Hill, so it's one of my favourites. So to get on the Shelf of Champions, it needed to get into the top 10. The bottom car was the Porsche Boxster that had a time of 6.388, and if you recall, the Honda RA17 Earth car, its lap time was 6.048 seconds, so that does put it in the top 10. But where exactly does it go on the shelf of champions? Well, it's going straight in at position number 7. So unfortunately we have to say goodbye to the little Porsche Boxster. It drops out of the top 10, and there goes the Honda RA17 Earth car in 7th position. There we are, so that is the end of this week's episode. So tell me, what did you think of that Honda Earth car? I've seen it in real life, I think it's really special. And how about the Pacer Car Pursuit? Was it exciting enough for you? Was I filming it correctly? It's quite difficult to get those camera angles and edit it all together, but I do quite enjoy it, so I hope you're all enjoying it as well. Anything else that you want to ask me? Put it all down in the comments. I'll certainly read them all and try and get back to you all as best I can. If you've enjoyed the content, then do please click on the like button, because that encourages me to do more. And of course, if you've first time that you found me or you're not subscribed already, click on that subscribe button, because that is a real confidence boost for me, and it'll allow me to build my channel and get more content out for you in the future. So that is the end of the episode. Nothing else to say, except for if I don't see you around next week, I'm definitely going to see you around the circuit. Okay, bye for now.